Hi friends, it's Jason, and today I wanted to talk to you about a massive series that I just finished reading. Quite a few people have talked about it. I had it in my want to read list on Goodreads for a while, and I finally got around to reading it, and the series I am talking about is the Suneater Series, which starts with book one, which is the Empire of Silence. And this series, the only word I've got to describe it is epic. It's massive. It is a huge undertaking. Now, some people that have read Empire of Silence have found that they struggled with this book, and I understand that, because for me this is like a long prologue. This basically helps you understand the main character, Hadrian Marlowe, his reason for being the way he is. This helps you understand that he is a damaged individual from the get-go. So now I know there are a lot of people out there that compare this series, Suneater Series, to Red Rising. Now I understand the comparison, but for simple little reasons, like things like you've got a main driving character in Hadrian and Darrow that come from these backgrounds that they're pulled into worlds that their intention when they were young was not where they were going to be. And they're drawn through this whole story in ways that they wouldn't choose for themselves. I understand that comparison. I understand it because it's humanity's future, where it's, you know, in Red Rising's case, it's thousands of years in the future, where in the case of Suneater, it's tens of thousands of years in the future. There's been multiple wars, etc., etc. And, you know, there's the Roman element of it, where there's emperors and empires and things like that. I get the comparison, but for me, that's where it ends. Red Rising is constantly, there's something happening, it's fast-paced, there's battles, there's action, it's constantly moving. Whereas with Suneater, and that is one of the biggest complaints with this first book in the Suneater series, is that it's slow. And basically, I think one of the reasons why this pace is set as it is because it is the main character's recollection of the events of probably 1,000 years, because in the Suneater series there is some genetic modification to some of humanity, and as they travel through the universe, they are put into what they call a fugue state, which is basically cryogenic freezing, so that they can not age while they travel from place to place. Their hyperdrive isn't, you know, we're going to get there in a few hours. It's more like we're going to get there in a few years. And we're talking about the entire Milky Way galaxy kind of thing that humanity has reached out into. The sheer scale of the Suneater series that Christopher Ruocchio has created is mind-boggling. There are references to old Earth, which, you know, they've gone out into the universe and abandoned Earth tens of thousands of years ago, almost 20,000 years ago, and Earth is no longer a habitable place. And there was a battle with AI, you know, that humanity had to defeat. And then they went out into the universe, and there's religious connotations. There's a religion that humanity is constantly at odds with, because they of course, want to be the only one. Humanity is the only life in the universe. Everything else is demons and demonic and etc., etc. There is an emperor, there is an empire, there are offshoot societies from that. There is an alien society, there is battles, but one thing that I have to stress is this is not a fast-paced story. It is a large story. Now, there are 6 books out currently in the main story. There are going to be 7. 7, I believe, is coming out in 2025. I've read books 1 through 6 back to back, and that's a bit of an undertaking because on Kindle, which I read them all on Kindle, they're all between 650 and 750 pages on Kindle. That is a massive undertaking when you consider that over 6 books you're reading, 30,000 pages. It's 30,000 pages? I can't do math right now. Anyway, it's a lot of pages. And it's not fast paced, so you have to go into that with that frame of mind. But the way that Christopher Ruocchio writes is there is such nuance and build up to the story that even something as simple as, and those of you who have read it will get my meaning here, something as simple as a slap across the face has repercussions for almost every character in the story. It's so mind-boggling what he's done with the way he writes the characters. And yes, we follow Hadrian and his periphery most of the time. Now, there are several novellas. I believe there's 4 or 5 novellas that go along with this story. I have not read those, mainly because I was 3 books into the 6 books before I knew the novellas even existed. So I didn't go back and read those, and I don't feel like I've lost anything by not reading those. And from what I've seen, I don't feel like I've really lost anything. I may read them in the future if I read this series again, and intersperse those where they're supposed to be. However, I don't think they're necessary. And correct me in the comments down below if, for some reason you think that I'm wrong in that regard, but I don't think they're necessary to get the main body of the story. Now, how Hadrian, the main character, is even remotely sane by the 6th book with everything that he has to go through from book 1 to book 6 literally boggles my mind, because there are moments in this book where how he just doesn't give up. And he's such a damaged character, but he keeps pushing through and keeps fighting and keeps trying to survive. It just blows my mind. And the intricacies of this story and his interrelations and how everything is wrapped into this complete story is so good. It's so good. Like I said, though, you have to go through this with the pace in mind that this is a slow story, but the payoff is remarkable. I really enjoyed this series. Even my girlfriend, she said to me she was surprised that I read these 6 books back to back, because they're quite an undertaking. Like, she said, you must really enjoy this if you're still going with this back to back to back to back. And I did. I read all 6 books back to back, which I've been told, Kristen and Maddie, that is industrious. And you know what? it was. But it's so worth it. The payoff at the end. For those that are starting and feeling that this book is slow, I 100% agree. The pacing of book 2, which is almost a book 1 to me, is because like I said, that one was kind of a long prologue. Book 2 is a little bit faster. There's a little bit more going on. But book 3, when you get to Demon in White, holy cow, there is so much happening in this book that if that book doesn't hook you to read the next 3, I don't know what will. It's so good. But for me, I understand the comparisons between this and Red Rising, but like I said, the sheer scale of this universe is absolutely massive, and I can't in one video express what that's like. You have to read it for yourself to understand everything that goes on in this story. There are parts where you're going to feel your mind wander a little bit just because of the detail that Ruocchio is putting into this story. But I definitely recommend getting into this if you are into epic sci-fi. It's so worth it, and I cannot wait to see how this ends in book 7. I mean, technically we already know how it ends by literally the first lines of this book, where Hadrian talks about blowing up a sun to kill billions of both an alien species and humanity. And like, those are the opening lines of his memoir that he's writing in this book. So it's mind-boggling, the scale. I definitely recommend it if it sounds like something that you would be interested in. Check out the Suneater series with the first book, Empire of Silence, and I hope you thoroughly enjoy it. And if you're into this series, let me know what you're thinking down below, and I really hope you enjoy it.